Benevento. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members, and thank you to Ms. Remington for inviting me here today. I'm an attorney at Joseph Greenwald and Lake who represents over a dozen child sexual abuse victims across the state of Maryland, covering 5 schools and 3 counties right now. Before I was an attorney, though, I was a social worker on the front lines of child abuse disclosures. And over my 8 years of helping child victims of abuse, including sexual abuse, it's become very clear to me that these are not isolated incidents that cannot be prevented. An ounce of prevention is very well worth a pound of cure. And here in Maryland, looking at all of these schools culminating at once in our community, we have to look into ourselves and our systemic processes to say, how could we have stopped this? This isn't just one rogue instructional aide, one rogue track coach or basketball coach. These perpetrators are being allowed unfettered access to children. And as my fellow panelists here have shared with you, in all of the circumstances for the victims I represent currently, none of those perpetrators would have been caught with the standard criminal background check. However, if they'd been thoroughly checked, if their prior employer had been contacted and asked about complaints of inappropriate contact with children, in many of these circumstances, parents were making complaints at prior schools. And the economic cost to our tax base of this type of abuse cannot be understated. The highest rate of post-traumatic stress disorder in child abuse victims is for victims of sexual abuse. Our doctors are saying that the treatment these children need is not in the thousands of dollars, it is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the psychological impact that they have suffered will take decades to cure, and it also hurts them long term. Just because they're 11, 12 years old now and we gain some progress with their therapist doesn't mean in 7, 8 years when they start to date, for instance, that this won't come up for them again. And we see tons of behaviors that hurt them long term, such as alcoholism and depression, that will further hurt our tax base. So when we look at the cost of procedural protections, such as heightened background checks, it certainly is going to pay for itself when we look ahead at the types of damages that the schools are going to have to pay in these civil lawsuits and that our tax base will incur as these children enter the workforce as adults. Thank you for your consideration.